You know that feeling, that low hum of worry that just seems to be there, kind of buzzing in the background of your day? Well, if you do, you're not alone. It's become incredibly common. So today, let's get into why. Okay, let's start with a number that really puts this all into perspective. 1 in 7. According to the World Health Organization, that's how many people globally are living with a mental disorder. I mean, do the math. That's over 1 billion people. The scale is just staggering.
And you see, for so many people, this isn't about feeling anxious before a big test anymore. It's shifted. Anxiety is no longer this occasional response to a specific threat. For a lot of us, it's become a constant state of being. It's like the background noise of modern life, the soundtrack playing on low all the time. But here's the thing, it wasn't always like this.
So that really brings us to the big question here, right? Why does it feel like everyone has anxiety now? What exactly happened? What are the forces in our world that have cranked up the volume on worry for so many of us? All right, let's break it down.
Now, before we really dive into the causes, I think it's crucial to look at how we're responding to this crisis. Or maybe how we're not responding. Globally, the median spending on mental health is just over 2% of total health budgets. And when you look closer, the disparity is just, wow. It's less than $1 per person in low-income countries compared to about $66 in high-income ones. What that tells you is there's this massive, gaping chasm between the scale of the problem and the resources we're actually throwing at it. All right, so let's get into our first major driver. And honestly, it's probably the device you're holding right now. It's the screen on your desk, the tablet on your lap. It's our constantly on, plugged-in digital lives. And this really gets at a weird paradox of our time, right? This quote from therapist Cassandra Diaz nails it. We have more access to information, more ways to connect than at any point in human history. But that sheer overload of options and media is, well, it's overwhelming us. It can seriously impact a young adult's sense of who they even are. And look, this isn't just a hunch or a theory. We have the data. A major study from MIT established a direct, and I mean a causal link. They looked at what happened when Facebook first rolled out on college campuses. The result? A 7% increase in severe depression and a massive 20% jump in anxiety disorders. And what was the primary driver? The big one? Social comparison. But it's a very specific kind of comparison, isn't it? It's us, with our messy, real, behind-the-scenes lives, comparing ourselves to everyone else's perfectly curated highlight reel. And doing that day in and day out, it just erodes your self-worth.
So what's the real-world consequence of all this time we spend online? Well, this number is pretty staggering. 72%. That's the percentage of young people, aged 16 to 24, who are now impacted by a fear of social situations. Think about it. When you get really good at interacting through a screen, where you can edit and filter everything, the messy, unedited, unpredictable reality of a face-to-face conversation can feel, well, terrifying. It can actually get in the way of developing those crucial real-world social skills.
Okay, let's switch gears to the second major factor. And this one hits close to home for millions of people. We're talking about money. We're talking about the financial vice and the powerful link between money worries and our mental health. So, just so we're all on the same page, what exactly is financial stress? Well, it's that feeling when you're struggling to meet your day-to-day commitments. It's that pit in your stomach when you know you can't access funds for an emergency. It's that constant, grinding pressure of just not having enough. It's a heavy weight to carry.
And while that stress is widespread, the burden definitely isn't shared equally. I mean, just look at this chart. The data from 2023 is pretty clear. The heaviest weight falls on the unemployed, on single parents, and on renters. It's the groups who are already the most vulnerable to economic shocks that are feeling this the most.
And here's where it gets really nasty, because it becomes this vicious two-way street. First, you've got the financial stress itself, which, no surprise, worsens your mental health. It dials up the anxiety, the distress, the depression.
And then, that poor mental health makes it so much harder to manage your finances. It can cripple your ability to work, to budget, to even ask for help. When your mind is overloaded with anxiety, something like creating a budget can feel absolutely impossible. And that, of course, just makes the financial problems worse. It's a trap, and it can feel impossible to break out of.
And if you need any more proof of just how tight this connection is, just look at this timeline from Australia. It's crystal clear. You see these huge surges in financial stress? They line up almost perfectly with major economic shocks. The dot-com crash in 2001, the global financial crisis around 2011, and the recent interest rate hikes in 2023. The link isn't just a theory, it's right there in the data. It's undeniable.
And that brings us to our third major factor. And really, you can't talk about modern anxiety without talking about the massive global earthquake that was the COVID-19 pandemic. Its echo is still being felt.
This number, honestly, it's heartbreaking. 71%. That's how many parents said the pandemic took a mental health toll on at least one of their kids. And we have to be clear, this wasn't just a temporary disruption like a bad snow week. We are still navigating the psychological aftershocks. This event fundamentally reshaped an entire generation's most formative years.
I mean, for young people, it really was a perfect storm of anxiety triggers. You have enforced social isolation, but it happened during the exact years when your brain is hardwired to seek out peer connection. You have daily routines, the very things that give us a sense of safety, just shattered overnight. And think of all the crucial milestones, graduations, first dates, first jobs, all these things that help you build your identity, just gone. This didn't just slow down social development. For many, it completely rerouted.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the causes, the why, but that can all feel a little abstract. So I want to shift gears and talk about what this anxiety actually feels like. What's the concrete physical reality of it in your body?
Just take a second and look at this. It's pretty chilling. On the left, you've got the symptoms of a panic attack. On the right, the symptoms of severe COVID-19. Shortness of breath, chest pain, a choking sensation, a fear of dying. The overlap is, honestly, it's terrifying.
And this is why panic disorder is often called the most physical of mental disorders. Because for the person going through it, the mental distress isn't just in their head, it becomes this terrifying physical reality. It feels every bit as real and life-threatening as a heart attack or a severe illness. Your brain's alarm system is just firing on all cylinders, screaming at your body that it's in mortal danger.
So, wow. After all of that, you might be wondering, is there any good news here? Where do we possibly go from here? Well, that brings us to a really important concept, the question of resilience. The good news is, research gives us some really clear clues about what works. When you look at what correlates with better well-being in adolescence, it's not some magic formula. It's foundational stuff. It's getting enough sleep. It's regular physical exercise, and it's finding a sense of community or a purpose, whether that's through attending religious or spiritual services or any kind of group activity that gives you that feeling of belonging. And this quote from Professor Andrea Dinase really hits on a crucial point about resilience. It's not about building a life where you never face anything difficult. That's impossible. Resilience is built in the navigating of those challenges. It's the very act of getting through tough experiences that teaches us the coping strategies we need. It's exactly like a muscle. It only gets stronger when you actually use it. And that really leaves us with a final and I think vital question to ponder. In a world that feels like it's been perfectly engineered to create anxiety, how do we push back? How do we create the space for ourselves and for the next generation to actually face those manageable challenges, to make mistakes, and to learn how to be resilient again?